الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. This week coincides with an important event that occurred after the tragedy of Karbala and the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. And those of you who were with us throughout Muharram and Safar, we had explained a variety of things that occurred that were positive, that happened as a result of the martyrdom of the grandson of the Holy Prophet. And we said one of the positive results was that level of balance as far as retribution is concerned and acting out on God's justice on this earth by making those who perpetrated that evil atrocity face the hand of justice, and of course to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's adala in this dunya before al-akhirah. And we said that one of them was the movement of the tawabin, or those who repented, explaining that we refer to them as al-tawabin, not that they had committed a sin and as a result wanted to show penance by doing something that they felt guilty of or that they were guilty of, but they felt a need of seeking retribution and justice because of what happened to Imam Hussein, and they were unable to participate in defending of Imam Hussein. And we explained this, and we said that in Kufa alone there were up to 25,000 Shia who were imprisoned during the reign of the governor Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. And in Basra again alone there were up to 25,000 or more. We all know that outside of Mecca and Medina, the Shi'i stronghold was Kufa at first and Basra second. We also know that Sham was predominantly in the hand of the Umayyads, especially due to the fact that Muawiyah had ruled over Sham, first of all for 20 years as the governor, and second of all for 19 years as the Khalifa. And therefore 39 years, of course, it's going to have a lot of impact on the overall direction of how Muslims were at that time. And the irony is that if we really want to have a good understanding as to where radicalism or extremism or Daesh or Qaeda or Boko Haram or all these other extremist groups, where they originated and where they are fed as far as their ideology is concerned, it goes all the way back to that very era of Bani Umayyah and Muawiyah in particular. And we know this for a fact because in principle, as far as our Islamic teachings are concerned, there's no such thing as severing one's head from a body for whatever sin they may have committed. Even when we talk about what we believe as Muslims as capital punishments, nowhere in our form of capital punishment and the penal law, do we approve or accept something like qat'u ra's, something like severing, decapitating a head? But of course this came about during the time of the Khulafa, and of course it reached its peak during the era of Yazid, and we all know how they were very proud in bragging about parading the heads of the martyrs of Karbala. Now, after al-Tawabin, that didn't go on for a very long time, but yet it was relatively successful, because it kind of like brought about a balance, and Shia, of course we know at that time Shia, which is what it means today, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, they were able to have, relative comfort and, be comfortable in their cities and towns that they lived in, again outside of the Sham area that was the stronghold of Bani Umayyah. And of course this was something good, wasn't it? Also, people felt that sense of relief that there is someone, acting upon some kind of justice and, getting back in revenging the killing of the grandson of the Holy Prophet. Then we have the second most important uprising after Karbala, was the uprising led by al-Mukhtar. Al-Mukhtar, I don't know if you have seen the very famous series. I think it came out in 2010. A good thing about it is that it has English subtitles as well. A wonderful series. All of my kids have seen it. They still remember it. Even Hussein now, when he saw al-Mukhtar, he asked me, is that Mukhtar Nameh, which is the name of the series. Really is something good, and all of you would benefit from it on a ilmi level, education-wise. So along with you watching Netflix and whatever you're into these days, Stranger Things and whatnot, you can see these kind of beautiful series. I always recommend these 4 series usually, maybe a 5th one as well. Number 1 is the series of Imam Ali alayhi salam, 20 chapters. Number 2 is the series of Ashab, the people of the cave. That's also a beautiful series. And number 3 is the series of Sayyidah Maryam alayhi salam. And if you're into, Zulaykha and Yusuf, number 4 would be the series of Nabiullah Yusuf alayhi salam. And of course, we just mentioned Mukhtar Nameh. These are not only going to give you a good insight into something that has been spoken about in the Holy Quran, but it's also going to give you some good understanding as far as Islamic history is concerned. You might have a problem with the subtitles being of poor quality, with the English and all that, but you can't do anything really about that. But of course we know that, in Iran, they really put a lot of effort in these kind of series. Al-Mukhtar ibn Ubaidullah al-Thaqafi. Abu Ubaid was one of the Sahaba, was one of the companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and he was sent out with a delegate, and of course for unforeseen reasons he was martyred. So that makes Mukhtar a tabi'i. Now, even though we as Shia, we're not really into that, those grading of whoever saw the Prophet automatically by default becomes a Sahabi and things like that. We've spoken about this a few times before. And also when it comes to tabi'i as well, doesn't give them any level of immunity just because you saw the Prophet or you saw someone who saw the Prophet. But talking in Sunni terms, al-Mukhtar was a tabi'i. Al-Mukhtar was a tabi'i. Being a tabi'i automatically, in the Sunni terms again, automatically makes you immune, which means that you need to be, of course, held in the highest level of reverence and respect and things like that. Unfortunately, al-Mukhtar is an example of that double standard that we can see when it does come to not only the Sahaba but also the likes of the Tabi'een. You know, when you see the Sahaba like Salman or like Abu Dhar, you know, they are also the companions of the Prophet. And the Prophet foretold about what's going to happen with Abu Dhar and who is going to be responsible for the killing of Abu Dhar. But you're never going to hear people around you, unfortunately, say, yeah, Abu Dhar was this and Abu Dhar was that. Why? Because what we can clearly see is how biased a lot of these people were and are in anyone affiliated, aligning themselves with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. They didn't carry that, or they don't carry that privilege that they are entitled to according to their own principles, not ours. Nonetheless, al-Mukhtar was pretty much the tarbiyah of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Imam Ali put a lot of effort in nurturing the likes of al-Mukhtar, knowing that these are going to be people who would assist the future generations of Muslims. And therefore, al-Mukhtar had seen war. He was a brave, courageous warrior. He was also very wise, very intelligent, very smart. And that's why Imam Ali alayhi salam referred to him as al-Kayyis. Kayyisun Kayyis. Kayyis means acute, smart, not cute as in hello, acute, yani smart, intelligent, you know, very switched on, not shuno, dajun, yeah, not mtaffi, switched on, knows his surroundings and everything else. There's a hadith from the Holy Prophet that says, al-mu'minu kayyisun fatin. A believer is smart, alert, and aware. Fatin, aware, you know your surroundings. You know, nowadays, what we refer to that as being street smart. You know what's going on around you, what's happening. You don't get easily deceived. You don't get sucked into, you know, hollow, meaningless slogans. Black Friday, early Black Friday. Everyone's panicking. Oh my God, Black Friday, they're bringing it early. It's not on the when's it usually on? 26th of December? Isn't that when it's usually on? Or that's Boxing? When's Black Friday usually? Oh, today's Friday, huh? Black Friday is usually towards the end of the year, isn't it? Or am I mistaken? Yeah, so they're bringing it early, apparently. Right? And everyone's saying, oh my God, let's go and do some shopping, Black Friday. It's easiest way of deceiving us. And ihna qashmar, we fall into it and we say, oh yeah, it's down from $99 down to $68. But they make it in Bangladesh for how much? $2, right? The over-processing of clothes and material and all these things, all of that is a result of this commercialization that we are so much sucked into. Karar, bedena, mo bedena? Yeah, good boy. Yeah. And we, unfortunately, really get into this. And so a mu'min, a believer, is really alert and aware about their surroundings. They don't, you know, get easily drawn into things that are superficial or shallow or meaningless, or doesn't give them any kind of objective in life, and all these other things. And we've spoken about this so many times before, haven't we? about, how we need to make sure that our direction is life is not distracted by having the latest iPhone 14 or, those kind of Samsung Shino S and all those other stuff. So, al-Mukhtar was a person of great character. He had a very good reputation. He was respected by the Shia. He was seen as a brave and wise person. And of course, the Umayyads during the time of Muawiyah and during the time of the early government of Yazid picked up on this. And when Muslim ibn Aqil arrived into Kufa, al-Mukhtar was sent to prison, because the first person that received and welcomed Muslim ibn Aqil, we all know who Muslim ibn Aqil was, the Safir of Imam Hussein, the deputy of Imam Hussein. When Muslim ibn Aqil arrived in Kufa, it was al-Mukhtar who received him, who welcomed him into his house. And because of that, as a result of that, he was imprisoned. He was in jail. When he was in jail, there was another companion of Imam Ali by the name of Maytham al-Tammar. And Maytham al-Tammar, Maytham, two different views about the way his name is said. He told al-Mukhtar that Imam Ali alayhi salam told me that you're going to be leading something very, very important. Now, just for some background information as far as who Maytham was, it is said in our ahadith that Maytham al-Tammar was blessed with ilmul manaya, with knowledge, with exceptional knowledge that most other people didn't have. And this was, of course, something common among the elites of the companions of Imam Ali. So, al-Mukhtar was in jail. They really wanted to kill him, but because he was the brother-in-law of the son of the second Khalifa of Umar ibn al-Khattab, that person, Abdullah ibn Umar, he mediated and asked that al-Mukhtar be set free, and that's exactly what happened, because as you can see here, al-Mukhtar's sister, whose name was Safiya, she was the wife of Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, right? Abdullah was kind of like a soft-headed person. He wasn't that much hostile to Ahlul Bayt, and therefore, he had that kind of seemingly positive role in all of this. We explained this, right? And of course, al-Mukhtar, didn't really see eye to eye with the leaders of the Tawabin movements. They were erratic. They weren't that disciplined in the art of warfare. They didn't have long-term goals. What they wanted to do was, him, kill him, let's get rid of him. They didn't have that kind of set army and things like that. Al-Mukhtar wasn't in favor of that, because al-Mukhtar was, as we said, a commander-in-chief in war, in battle, and he wanted to do things a different way. So he didn't participate in the movement of al-Tawabin. This is kind of like answering all of our questions when someone asks, okay, where was al-Mukhtar when Karbala happened? Al-Mukhtar was in jail like many other thousands of Shia, right? These people who Yazid and his governors knew were gonna be a part of Imam Hussein's camp, they were imprisoned or sent away. And of course, al-Mukhtar not joining in with al-Tawabin kind of like brought down the morale of al-Tawabin army, and some of them left. As we said, now we're in the date of Rabi'u Thani, and this is why we're mentioning all of this. And of course, the direction that I want to take is not just to see these uprisings and movements as military, only jihad and killing and revenge. It was more than that. It was more than that, because it brought back that sense of relief for the Shia, where the Shia were able to walk down the street without persecution. Al-Mukhtar was ruling over Kufa for about 18 months. And just imagine a Shi'i, a follower of Ahlul Bayt, recapturing, gaining control of the capital of Imam Ali. People are going to be comfortable. People, the Shia especially, they're going to feel a sense of relief. And that's going to be really, really important. Yes, when you are heading towards that, there are these obstacles that you're going to face, these ruthless people who have no sense of humanity. It doesn't matter how much you're going to negotiate with them or plead them or try to avoid any confrontation or violence or war or things like that. But if that's what they're adamant in doing, that's what's going to happen anyway, unfortunately. When did we speak about Imam Hassan's peace treaty? It doesn't matter what Imam Hassan did. He even gave away, relinquished, abandoned his khilafah for the sake of keeping peace. But yet all of those things happened because Muawiyah was adamant on doing that. And this is why, we can see that because al-Mukhtar had this very influential kind of position among the Muslims, the character assassination started, the smearing campaign. And we all know that this happens to anyone who is in the spotlight, anyone who becomes a popular figure. Smearing campaign has to happen. Sometimes it happens intentionally by enemies with evil intent. Sometimes it happens innocently by sharing gossip. And we can see this regularly, don't we? We can see that someone might intentionally create an accusation or a story about someone and brand that person as being such, and then someone else very afawi, very innocently comes across this, reads it, hears it, believes in it. Imam al-Mujtaba alayhi salam had said, between haqq and batil, between the truth and between falsehood, there's 4 fingers between what you hear and what you see. And that's why we're talking here about being wise, being alert, making sure that you don't fall into these kind of things, Fox News and all these other things. Everyone is bombarding, for example, Iran this, Iran that, the Iranian regime. And then you come across any random person, and they really genuinely believe. I know, unfortunately, even Shia who believe that, Iran is this and Iran is that. Iran is nowhere close to being a perfect country. And no individual other than our imams, other than our prophets, are perfect beings. But we can easily tell when it does come to something like a smearing campaign or character assassination. The reason why I'm saying this is even in our own books, we do have certain narrations that censure or criticize al-Mukhtar and say that al-Mukhtar did this. Al-Mukhtar was not Imam al-Sajjad, because the Imam of his time was Imam Ali al-Sajjad. Imam al-Sajjad was not very much in favor of the Mukhtar movement, etc., etc. But on the other hand, there are a lot of things and a lot of references that praise al-Mukhtar and those who were with him as well. This is exactly what we can see that Bani Umayyah did. How long were Muslims all over the Muslim nation at that time cursing Imam Ali in every khutbah and in every adhan? For up to 70 years. Over 70 years. So much so that the khatib, one of the khatibs of Friday sermon, he forgot to curse Ali ibn Abi Talib in his khutbah, in his sermon, and on his way back home, he stood there in the middle of where he was. He announced publicly, I had forgot, and here I am sharing my obligation of cursing Ali ibn Abi Talib. And therefore, you're not going to be surprised if other people who are around Ahlul Bayt are also going to be accused of certain things like al-Mukhtar, etc., etc. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Is that the right time? What? Someone is important here that needs to be mentioned is Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr ibn al-Awam. Al-Zubayr was one of the companions of the Prophet. He was one of the companions of Imam Ali. Well, along with who? Along with who? No? Along with who? Yeah. Talha. Talha and Zubayr. Right? Who said Aisha? Who said that? Who said? No, but you're right. But later on, yeah. Why are you saying nobody said it? Come, why are you scared? If I will verbally abuse you, I'll do it later on, not when we recorded. So yes, that's right. But what I meant was being one of the companions of Imam Ali. Talha and Zubayr, they were like twins. And of course, the Prophet and Imam Ali kept on telling them, you know what, look, mate, you know, be careful because you're going to, you know, lose the track later on and things like that. And subhanallah, in the battle of Jamal, which was led by Aisha, they changed sides from Imam Ali and they fought against Imam Ali. Abdullah is the son of al-Zubayr. Now he was, of course, someone who hated Bani Umayyah for his own personal interests, and he established his own khilafah. He called people to his khilafah in Mecca, right? Now al-Mukhtar said, okay, you're in Mecca, you hate the Umayyads, I'm in Kufa, I hate the Umayyads, let's work together, but on a few conditions. Number one, you don't do things all on your own. Number two, you consult with me in what it is that you're going to do. Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr in the beginning said, okay, but later on he didn't. So that's when al-Mukhtar pretty much left him. And so, of course, I've got all of this information here, so make sure you're reading it while I'm explaining. I don't want to read out word by word, but the interesting thing is Mus'ab ibn al-Zubayr was the brother of Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr. He was in Basra, and he was appointed by Abdullah to be the governor of Basra. Now, he was, of course, not like Abdullah, and he was extremely hostile towards Ahlul Bayt. Remember his name, because he's going to be, of course, mentioned in a few more slides. Now, we all know Al-Hajjaj ibn Yusuf and how evil he was, one of the chief commanders of Bani Umayyah, and of course, Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr was killed by him. Don't forget, you have Bani Umayyah, then you have the Zubayris, and then you have the Marwanis as well. Because the Marwanis also started to gain power, and they were the rivals pretty much with Bani Umayyah. And the Marwanis were equally hostile to Ahlul Bayt, like Bani Umayyah and like the Zubayris as well. You know, these weren't sects, these were tribes that were all around during that time. So just imagine, and all this time, where is Imam Ali as-Sajjad alayhi salam? He is in Medina. He is in Medina pretty much under house arrest, being monitored all the time to make sure that he doesn't do anything like what his father did. So of course he's not going to, you know, outwardly, publicly endorse or support this, you know, uprising led by al-Mukhtar. And what al-Mukhtar did was, in a lot of cases, send out skirmishes, little groups of soldiers who were, for example, led by a certain commander, and they would go out and they would do things. And these people that were a part of it were really important people, like Ibrahim ibn Malik al-Ashtar. Malik al-Ashtar, mashallah, everyone knows who Malik al-Ashtar was. And then he had a son who was also of that same level of being a warrior. And this is why, this was his slogan, by the way. Al-Mukhtar's slogan was, Ya latharat al-Hussein. Where are you? Those who want to revenge the killing of Imam Hussein. This is also going to be the slogan of Imam al-Hujja Ajjalallah Ta'ala Faraju Sharif. What did you do with the picture? You said you changed it? Oh, thank you. These are some of the very good positive results of the uprising of al-Mukhtar, which is very important for us to remember about, especially seeing that we want justice to be served. You know, retribution is very important. You know, that's why we believe in qisas. That's why we believe in capital punishment. A person who perpetrates the most heinous of crimes, the most evil of crimes, can't be just left to roam around as he wishes, can't be left to just serve a jail sentence of 2 years. He's destroyed a whole family. He's murdered someone innocently. And that's what this ayah says here down the bottom. I don't know, can anyone see that?
This will also be the slogan?
No, down the bottom, Hussein. And whoever. Whoever is killed unjustly. Yeah, where's, yeah, can you read it or can you, yeah? Huh? Arabic. What? Yeah, it is. Yeah, okay. We have given the next of kin or the guardian of the innocently killed person authority, but of course they can't exceed. So when we talk about justice, when we talk about these things, we mentioned this a while ago, didn't we? That you need to make sure that you the mazloom, you the oppressed, don't become the oppressor. You the oppressed don't become the oppressor. Why is it that we can see people who, for example, their whole life was ruined for whatever reason it may be? For whatever reason it may be, whether it was abuse of any sort or murder or anything like that, and this victim starts to have PTSD, starts to have depression, starts to become suicidal, starts to have all of these issues. One of the things that aggravates that, one of the things that contributes to that is they can see that the person responsible for ruining their life is as free as a bird, or is going to jail, and in jail they have Wi-Fi and akil and television and all these luxuries. A lot of people say we're better off in jail than we are in other places because of what it is that they receive. And so again, this is all talking about, you know, the significance of some of the things that we are able to see, and that's in our human nature. It's in our human nature that we demand justice to be served, that we demand justice to be served in this dunya and in al-akhirah as well. So these are some of the names of the people who al-Mukhtar and his army were responsible in killing. I'm sure you know most of their names. Hanu, read out quickly, very quickly, the names. Just the name, just the first name. Hamrallah. Yeah, mashallah. Yeah. Tried to get you involved, but ابتليت تورطت. Murrah, then Amr ibn, you got Khawli, very known. Sanan, also a very common name that you've probably heard in Majalis. Umar ibn Sa'd, one of the commanders that was in Karbala. Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad, of course we all know him. When we recite Ziyarat Ashura, we mention him and curse him, right? And he was killed by Ibrahim, the son of Malik al-Ashtar. And then we have those who removed some of the clothings of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. They were killed by al-Mukhtar and his army. Those who were riding the horses that trampled over the blessed body of Imam Hussein, they were also killed. You know, and all of these other people who somehow were involved with burning the tents or with doing something that, of course, can never be forgiven, right? These people, of course, lived miserable lives because they didn't get what it is that they were promised by Yazid. They didn't get what they were promised by Yazid, so they lived miserable lives, right? And of course, al-Mukhtar safahum kulhum walhamdulillah. Then, of course, al-Mukhtar, he came to a sad ending, and he was killed by al-Mus'ab ibn al-Zubayr, and he had two wives at the time. Al-Mus'ab said to the two wives, curse al-Mukhtar, disown al-Mukhtar and curse him. One of the wives said, okay, I'll do it. She was the daughter of Samara ibn Jundub. The other wife said, no way, I'll never do it. And that's what she said. Ali, read that out. Urzaqaha. Shahadatun urzaqaha. This is going to be a martyrdom that I will be blessed with. Ahsan. So this is a martyrdom that I'm going to be blessed with, and you want me to leave it? No way, never. It's going to be an honorable death, and then from that it will be heaven, where I will be received by the Holy Prophet and his household. And so, of course, al-Mus'ab ibn al-Zubayr not only killed her, but also severed her head. And this, of course, happened in Ramadan. What was the date? The 14th of Ramadan al-Mubarak. Now, another interesting thing that happened as a result of all of this was a cult, a sect that supposedly came out. A lot of people say this was something that Mukhtar initiated. Again, remember what we said about character assassination, smearing campaign, accusing him of all of these things. That's why if you were to go and Google about al-Mukhtar, they say, oh, al-Mukhtar claimed to be a prophet. Al-Mukhtar claimed nubuwah and things like that, which is absurd. But unfortunately, the likes of Ibn Khaldun and al-Dhahabi and other people, unfortunately, mention it only in spite of him and what it is that he did for Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. It's also said that al-Mukhtar, invited people to believe in Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, the son of Imam Ali, and that he was the Mahdi, and that he was still alive, etc., etc. All of that, of course, are clear accusations. None of that happened as far as what our ulama and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are concerned have mentioned. The Kaysani sect does not exist, by the way. These are two hadiths that were mentioned in favor of al-Mukhtar. One by Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says pretty much that he is so glad that he sees justice to be served by the hands of al-Mukhtar. One is by Imam al-Baqir, where he's saying to people, La tasubbu al-Mukhtar, don't swear, don't accuse, don't say anything bad about al-Mukhtar. فَإِنَّهُ قَتَلَتَنَا, because he killed those who killed us. وَطَلَبَ بِثَارِنَا, and he sought to avenge and seek revenge for us. وَزَوَّجَ أَرَامِلَنَا, and he facilitated the marriage of our widows. وَقَسَّمَ فِينَا الْمَالَ عَلَى الْعُسْرَةِ, and he fairly distributed wealth and money over the poor and the destitute. So these are words in praise of al-Mukhtar, and of course that again shows that al-Mukhtar was an honorable person, a great person. And if we do somehow hear that people criticize al-Mukhtar, that is not what the overall view is that our ulama have. Interesting is whenever inshallah you go to Kufa and you want to visit the Masjid of Kufa and places like that, you'll also be able to see the grave of al-Mukhtar. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Let's stand up.